All right, we're going to get started here in just a little bit. Lots of people jumping on. Appreciate your support. For those of you that I haven't seen in a while, I'm uh, I'm wearing my glasses now. I'm 46. I've been doing this a long time, so I know there's going to be some new friends on here, some old friends, and I'm also going to record this. I'm going to wait for a few more people to get on. We've already got a couple hundred people on. There's going to be more. There's a lot of people that are a little puckered right now with, with what I'm going to talk about because I've not ever spoken about any of this publicly since I left WorldVentures in 2017. And a lot of people are asking me why I'm going to do this tonight. One of the reasons is because, there's more companies popping up all the time. I mean, that's one of the big things is that, people they just keep jumping from deal to deal. They keep changing companies. They, change products, change programs, keep changing stuff. And I feel like somebody needs to really tell the real truth and also fix this. I'm going to talk about some industry problems tonight, some things that give the industry a bad rap. We've already got over 250 people on, so I appreciate everybody's support. I'm gonna kind of jump into it, but I appreciate. Thanks for saying hi. A lot of people are saying hi. I appreciate you guys getting on. Trust me, there's a lot of people puckered. Now, here's one of the things that I'm going to do. I'm not going to mention people specifically by name because that's not my style. And a lot of these people that I'm going to talk about tonight, I'm going to talk about them. And if you know the situation, you'll know who I'm talking about. And the reason I think it's important is because these leaders, or what they call themselves leaders, a lot of them continue to go to other companies, recruit people, change. I mean, these people change companies and businesses and products like people change underwear. And it gives the industry a bad rap. It's one of the reasons why I feel like the industry has kind of a black eye. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm going to do this tonight. But also, I've been working on a solution. And I think that that's the important thing is that, I took time out of the industry and I observed all of this. And so I've been doing this for over 25 years. I got into the direct sales industry back in 1997. So it was the summer of 1997. And so I've been doing this now for almost 27 years. And that's one of the reasons I can talk about this. And people that know me know we've got over 500 people on here now. They know that I don't sugarcoat and I tell it how it is. And so I'm going to give you the real side of the industry tonight, but I'm also going to give you the real story about what happened with WorldVentures. And the first thing you should know and understand is, first of all, I'm grateful for WorldVentures. And that's one of the reasons why to this day, I still haven't recruited any of my old team from WorldVentures. I still haven't gone and poached. I haven't drugged people's names through the mud. I haven't exposed people really publicly or talked about any of this stuff. And so tonight I am going to go through the real facts, the real stories, why it happened. I'm going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly because I think it's important that we learn lessons from this, right? I mean, if we keep repeating, history, then we didn't learn anything. We make these mistakes over and over again. And I know I have people on here commenting that, WorldVentures was a blessing. It was for me too. And I helped a lot of people make a lot of money. In fact, a lot of the people that I introduced in the very beginning made millions of dollars, millions. And most of them, in fact, almost all of them had never made any money before, had never had any success before. And I'm going to talk about why WorldVentures was able to attract people that had no MLM experience, had no network marketing experience, why the company was able to grow and sustain that because they didn't follow a lot of the MLM, protocols and things that are normal and standard in the industry. But I think we've got enough people on now. I'm going to roll. But like I said, I got into this industry back in 1997. But I actually started in travel before I was in direct sales. I started promoting spring break trips and taking groups from my fraternity and from college in 1996. I worked for a company that sold spring break trips, sold ski trips over the winter break. I love to travel, I didn't come from money. We didn't get to travel. We didn't take family vacations. We took one family vacation my entire childhood. And so I had a passion for travel and I wanted to see the world. My degree was in political science. You know, I wanted to be able to go places and travel and experience more. And so I've had a passion for travel my entire life. And so that's how I got into the travel business. And then once I was in the direct sales industry, I studied abroad in Costa Rica while I was in college. And so I was in the direct sales industry while I was in college. And the only time I had ever left the country was on spring break. And back then you didn't need a passport. So I studied abroad in Costa Rica with a student visa, a green card, because this was before 9/11. And so you didn't have to have a passport. And so, you know, I didn't have a passport until I was about 23 years old. And so I didn't get a chance to travel like I have over the last 25 years because of what we're going to talk about tonight. And so I am too grateful for what WorldVentures gave me because it gave me the ability to travel around the world. But I started my first travel company in 2001. I was the first person to take groups of students to Costa Rica. I did adventure packages. We did whitewater rafting. We did zipline tours. We did, you know, surfing and did all of these adventure packages in Costa Rica. And so I was doing that 2001, 2, 3. And then in 2004, I stumbled onto network marketing and travel. That first company was a company called GT Trends. And I met my mentor, Mike Asquay, who took me in and taught me and showed me about MLM. And within 5 or 6 months, I was making over $20,000 a month. But the problem with GT Trends was the same problem that a lot of companies were having at the same time. There was no legitimate, real travel direct sales companies. These companies back then in 2004 and a couple of years before that were what was called back then card mills. Okay, so it was a card mill, which would basically meant that these companies were producing travel agent ID cards and they were telling people travel like a travel agent, you know? You get these travel agent credentials, you take this test, which was a joke. Everybody knew the answers to the test. You get this travel agent card, you get these travel agent discounts. And back then, a lot of the hotels and even a couple of the airlines used to do upgrades and discounts and deals for travel agents because this was before the internet. So the internet had changed all of that. And so storefront travel agencies were closing up and going away. And so there was this void. And so these direct sales companies came in and they created these card mills. And so that's what GT Trends was. But I didn't know any better. It was my first time doing network marketing because I saw something where I could make residual income because my first direct sales company did not have residual and the product was guaranteed for life. And so we were limited on who we could sell to. The company had to come up with new products to sell to customers because the products were guaranteed for life. And so, and by the way, thanks for sharing this. I know a lot of you shared it. I mean, hundreds of people are still jumping on and I appreciate the support. Everybody that's on here, I know a lot of you I've worked with, some of you haven't talked to in years, but I know you're glad that I'm doing this. And so I just wanted to say thanks for supporting me. It does mean a lot. So within a few months, I was making all this money. The problem is that it wasn't a real business. It wasn't a real travel company. We were just producing these plastic cards that said travel agent on it. And we were building teams and we were networking, we were recruiting. The majority of my team, and I put in several thousand people within, 90 to 180 days, were from my hometown in West Texas. We were having presentations in Amarillo where there was literally like 1,000 people. We had to rent out the Coliseum to do what we called travel parties, presentations, these group presentations. It was wild. It was crazy. But the problem is that they couldn't make the cards fast enough. Our website was broken half the time. The back office, the accounting, because when we came on board, there was only a few hundred reps. And then within, 9 months, there was 65,000 that we put in. And that's one of the things that I want to talk about tonight is that when you grow fast, it exposes you, right? So as you grow, it exposes your faults. It exposes your cracks. And so companies that never really make it, that never become a blip on the radar, most of those companies some of them will just grow real slow and never go away, but they'll never do anything big. People won't ever make any money. But the thing is sometimes growth can be your biggest curse because it exposes the problems in your program. And so we grew really fast. We put in thousands of people. I was making over $20,000 a month. I was 22, 23 years old. And it was residual income, and I was traveling, and I had this other travel company in Costa Rica. So I wound up selling it. But then literally the wheels started falling off. And, you know, my mentors in that business, they kept standing in front of the room and telling everybody that it was okay. And I had problems with that. And so I actually resigned because checks were bouncing, the cards were not coming in, people were not able to get discounts. So all the things that we were telling people they were going to get were not happening. But the thing is that the people that I was working with, there was only a couple people making more money than me. They still stood in front of the room and kept cashing their checks as long as they would come in. I couldn't believe it. This was a problem for me. So I resigned. So at the end of 2004, the beginning of 2005, I resigned. They owed me a ton of money. They had bounced checks to me. And so I was like, I'm going back to doing traditional travel. I'm going to do something else. I started doing a little bit of real estate. And so then I got a phone call from the founders of WorldVentures, who we became founders together, Mike and Wayne. And so in about July of 2005, Mike and Wayne called me and said, hey, we need to meet with you. We want to talk to you. They were still cashing their checks, by the way, all those months from GT Trends. They owed them money too. But I started learning these things about the industry that I didn't like, that were like the dirty secrets, you know? And they said, look, we're going to start our own travel company, and it's going to be a legitimate travel company. And you're going to have ownership in the company. So there were 5 of us that started WorldVentures. This was back in July of 2005. Okay. And so I know people are asking, and I said I wasn't going to say names, but I think it's important that you understand when I'm talking about how this all started. You know, I'm not going to say anything about them. But it's important for historical facts, you know, so that people know. So they called, we met, they said, hey, look, you're going to have ownership. We want you to come in and build these DreamTrips, because I had been running a travel company. So I had contracts in Costa Rica. And so I built and created the first DreamTrips back in 2005. I drew the logo. I mean, I came up with the website design. All of those things were done by me in 2005. And those first DreamTrips the first one was our $33.50 cruise, which a lot of people talked about, which was on like the crappiest Carnival ship that was out there, but it was a sexy story. And then I did a trip to Costa Rica using my Costa Rica contacts. So first was the cruise, then we did Costa Rica. We did a couple other trips. And so I want to make sure that people understand that when we started, the goal was to be able to get people on these dream trips. All we had was group trips. That's it. That was our entire product, okay? And when we started, we only had 1 trip per month. In fact, one of the first taglines and t-shirts that I made for the company was the trip of a lifetime monthly. And so the idea was to have access to these amazing trips once a month. You could go on all 12, you could go on 1, you could go on 2 or 3. The more you went, the more you saved, right? We were going to buy in bulk, we were going to get these deals, and that's what we did. The first year we wound up doing 15 trips. The problem is that they all sold out almost immediately, but we grew. And what's crazy is the first 6 months we were building, we launched the company actually at a nightclub that I had part ownership in October of 2005. We started like our pre-launch, and we were doing paper applications. We didn't even have a back office. And so we started signing people up on paper, and it was a binary, and it grew fast, and it was right team, left team was just how tall your stacks of paper was. I mean, because there was no back office, because in the beginning, we wanted to build everything. We wanted to make everything ourselves. And that was a huge mistake, first of all, because the back office and things were broken. And then we finally launched in December. I planned that launch event. So I planned the October event that was at Hotel Zaza and the club that I own part of in Dallas. Then we did this kind of convention where we turned the system on, turned the back office on in Vegas in December of 2005. And then in January, we left on our first dream trip. So literally within 5 months of pre-launch, we finally did our first dream trip. When we announced it in December in Vegas, it was a month later. It sold out the same day. Then I announced Costa Rica, sold out immediately. So you couldn't even get on the trips. And so this was the early signs of, once again, fast growth exposes your cracks. And so the thing is that we didn't bring in any MLMers. We didn't bring in any leaders. And at no point did WorldVentures do BDA deals. We didn't buy leaders. We didn't buy volume. There was one acquisition where we acquired a leaders company that was basically bankrupt and had massive amounts of debt. And we rolled that company in 2009 into WorldVentures. But there were no deals. There was no ghost legs. There was no ghost volume. There was no BS. The only thing that ever happened was so we had some cross-line recruiting, some unhealthy cross-line recruiting, but the company tried to restrict all of that. But there's so many people in other companies that the comp plan is literally a joke, because when leaders come, it's like, how much did they get? How much did they get paid? How much did they get to move their team? And the thing is that's not duplicatable. And you're buying loyalty. The comp plan should dictate the behavior. That's the most important thing that I've learned over doing this for almost 30 years, is that the comp plan should be healthy enough and good enough to where you can attract who you're trying to attract. If you have to pay people to come to your deal or to come to your company, it is the wrong deal. It's never going to work, because if you have to pay the leaders, if they're not bought in on the vision and what you're going to do and what you're going to accomplish and what you're going to create, if you have to pay them to come, they'll never be able to duplicate. And you can see this over and over again. I think the biggest example of this recently over the last 15 years, you can look at Jeunesse. Go look at Jeunesse, because if you look at Jeunesse, their playbook was, we buy leaders, we buy teams. How much will it cost you? How much are you worth, right? Because if you were a leader in other companies, that was how they did it. And so they built their business to over $1 billion. Okay. And all of these things tonight, that's the other thing that's important for you to know. Everything I'm sharing with you tonight, this is all facts, right? This is all real facts, real truth, no secrets here, no BS. And I don't have anything to gain, but I'm so tired of people being misled and hearing stories and seeing leaders walk across stage and people getting checks that are not real. It's not real. The volume's not real. The growth isn't real. And so, look at Jeunesse. Like I said, I think they're the perfect example of how not to do it, because they're one of the only companies that, like WorldVentures, we went to almost $1 billion in revenue, and then the company filed for bankruptcy in 2020. So literally from zero to $1 billion, right? And then out of business within 3 years of doing 900+ million in revenue. I mean, that's insane. But the thing is that we had other problems that I'm about to expose. But Jeunesse did the exact same thing. They went to $1 billion, and then now they just filed for bankruptcy. Why? Because nobody believed in what they were doing. Nobody was sold on the vision, the products, the culture, the things that were going right for WorldVentures, which I'll talk about in just a minute, that literally caused people to work for free for 2 years. There were some people that literally didn't get paid for 2 years and worked at WorldVentures and continued to promote. And they told them that they were going to get their checks. They said that they were going to get paid. And WorldVentures literally kept a tally of how much they owed the leaders. And that's why when they went to Seacret, they went to Seacret because Seacret was going to pay them the money that WorldVentures owed them. And so that's how strong the culture was at WorldVentures. And the reason is because there were literally people that had never had this kind of success before. Nobody had had this kind of success before. The people that were in WorldVentures, this was the most money any of us had ever made in our entire lives, any of us. And so you have to realize the amount of fear for people to leave something that literally was the most money they'd ever made in their entire lives. And almost every one of the leaders was making more than they had ever made in their life. There may have been an exception, like one, okay? But for the most part, the top 20 income earners, nobody had ever made this kind of money before in their life, myself included. And so people were willing to take the promise that they would get paid eventually under the pretense that if they stayed and towed the line and kept people in, that they would eventually get that money. And so the reason why we had so much success at WorldVentures, and I'm going to get to some of the good and the bad, is because of the fact that these were people that didn't know any better. They hadn't been around the industry. They hadn't moved from deal to deal. You know, we had people that literally were with us from the beginning in 2005 until the company filed for bankruptcy or moved the downlines to Seacret. I mean, that is literally facts. There was no other companies over that time period that had that kind of success and that kept those people involved and engaged, especially when they weren't getting paid. And so we attracted non-MLMers because we built from the roots. We built from the ground up. We did everything was belly to belly. This was before Zoom. There was no Zoom. There was not even a go-to meeting. I mean, we had Skype. I mean, that was it. And no meetings were done on Skype. We did live events. We did hotel meetings. We did travel parties. I did meetings at bars and restaurants all over the world. That was how we built. And so all of these people, this was their first success. And that's one of the reasons they were so engaged and so fearful to leave, was because they had never had that kind of success before. And so the fear of the unknown was greater than the fact that literally they were not getting paid. And so what I want to do is I want to talk about the things that work, because this is what's important. Is that I learned all of this because I was there from before day one. So before there was a WorldVentures, I was there. And so I was able to look. And here's the other thing. I was the only person that ever resigned from the PAC team. So the President's Advisory Council, which I had a permanent position on because of my ownership in the company, from being a founder, I was a permanent member of the PAC team. And I was the only PAC member that ever resigned. Okay? Because I was not going to lie. Just like I didn't do it for GT Trends. I walked away from a fat check at GT Trends and I resigned from the PAC team at WorldVentures and then wound up filing a lawsuit demanding payment. And so these are coming from me looking out and looking at the things that did work, why we were having success. And so here are the things that worked. Number one, the reason why we were the most successful travel company in the history of the direct sales industry is because people were actually traveling. Okay, this is the first litmus test. If you see a company that says that they are a travel company or they are doing travel, the first thing you need to do is look at who's traveling and are they traveling? You know, this is what I taught my new people was your prospects are watching you. Just like you can't be obese and overweight and sell a weight loss product. Nobody is going to believe you. Just like no one is going to believe that you're part of this awesome travel company if the only place you've ever gone is down the street. And so it's important. And I'm seeing people, and I appreciate, I can't respond to all these comments, but I love you guys and everybody that's commenting. And, you know, so we were traveling. That's what worked. Okay. And so all these companies that have come after WorldVentures, including while we were still in business, you look at the companies that said they were travel companies, none of them were traveling, okay? The ones that have left and gone to other companies and said that they're traveling or they're part of travel companies, they're not traveling. They're not taking the trips. And so we were traveling and there was consumption. Part of the reason was because we forced consumption. We forced consumption because a portion of our compensation plan was paid in travel dollars. And the travel dollars expired, so you had to use them. And so in the beginning, the travel dollars were just a very small part of the pay. But because the company couldn't spend money properly, just like a lot of the other things, you know, we wound up changing it to where there was more travel dollars. And so the one good thing about that is that people were actually traveling. And the other thing is that the group trips in the beginning, it worked. The ones that I created in 2006 were good. The ones that Grant Merz, rest his soul, created in 2006 after he took over from me doing the first few trips, they were good value. But the problem was group travel. And here's an important note for you. Group travel is not scalable. You cannot scale group travel and grow a company to over 3 million customers, okay? 3 million customers over the 12 years that I was there. You can't scale group travel like that. And that was all we had. Here's the other thing that was working is we had a training culture. We had a personal development culture. And so because of the fact that people worked together and teams that were cross-line and sideline and didn't even have benefit from each other, we all worked together, but we had to lay down our egos. And here's the problem is that most other companies, that is false. The egos are so big that they feel like there's nobody that can teach them anything. They feel like there's nobody that can talk to their team. They want to be the guy. They want to be the girl. They want to be the man. They want to be the woman. And when we as leaders, there was only a few of us that were trainers in the beginning at WorldVentures, we laid down our egos and said, I'm going to help your team. You're going to help my team. We're going to work together. We're going to build this thing together. We're going to build this culture. And Mark Aceta was the one who ran it all and put it all together as far as the training content. I worked with him on the training calendar because the training calendar came from my background in direct sales and doing regional trainings, right? Because we didn't used to do regional trainings. We used to do accelerations, and every other month we were going all over the country to one location. And then we figured it out and dialed it in. And so it became a training culture, and we were all working together. And so in the beginning, the trips were good. The discounts were good. The culture was good. Everything was working. But then we started to realize that the trips were not scalable. And the other thing is that we were continually trying to build a search engine to compete with Travelocity and Expedia. That is a bottomless pit that is a for sure loser. You cannot go compete with publicly traded companies, okay? They have infinite money. They can issue stock. There was absolutely no way that we were going to ever compete with Travelocity and Expedia, but we still hemorrhaged millions of dollars in the beginning trying to build a search engine that never worked. It was broken from day one, and it never worked, and we were never able to do it, and we wasted millions of dollars, millions of hours of resources, okay? And on top of that, we couldn't spend properly because, they wanted to be like Google. They read the book, The Google Effect. And so we needed to have this big office. And, Wayne just had to have a building with the WorldVentures name on it. And so we're spending $100,000+ a month for office space. We hired all these fancy, degreed people. Half of the executive team over about a 10-year period had no experience in network marketing. And then we go by Rovia, we go by Putnam Travel, a guy who doesn't even believe in the MLM industry, doesn't even believe in our model, who's a traditional travel agency. And you go get all these people to come in and try to run a company that have no MLM experience, that have no direct sales experience. We were bringing people in from Kimberly-Clark and all these, Ivy League diplomas and degrees. We went through like 3 or 4 CMOs over like a 3 or 4 year period. We had a new CMO like every 6 months, 9 months. And you know what's crazy? At the end in 2017, we had a higher payroll for severance than we did for the employees that were actually still working there because we hired terribly. And so all these people that the company went out and hired with these fancy degrees and fancy diplomas, I remember coming into a meeting and having to explain somebody who was the new CEO how MLM worked. What? Are you serious? And so literally these were just the beginnings of the problems. So expensive office space, too many people. We decided to publish our own magazine. So we had an entire department of literally 20, 30, 40 people salaried producing our own magazine that made us no money. It made us no money. But we had to have it. We had a scream room in the office with like a punching bag. It was free snacks in the break room. There was nobody clocking in or clocking out. I lived here in Plano and Frisco. I would go up to the office and there would literally be empty desks and empty offices everywhere. Everywhere. I'm like, what do these people do? What are you doing? Do you even know? And then none of the people even knew what we did. I remember one time I went up there and I'm like, can I just walk around and talk to people and tell them what we do in the field? Nobody had any idea. All these people, 800+ people at the peak working there, nobody even knew what we did. But because we brought somebody in from HR with big fancy resumes, and so this was the problem. We overspent on everything. We overspent on the office. We overspent on the magazine. We overspent on tchotchke gifts. I brought people to the company multiple times that could have saved the company, that could have taught Putman and his team of travel agents that were booking net rates and trying to get distressed travel and couldn't negotiate their way out of a paper bag. I brought them people that could have negotiated and saved the company. I knew we were hemorrhaging money. I brought it up. I was shunned in meetings for bringing it up because people didn't care because the company was growing, right? And then we turned a blind eye when sales started coming in from Asia because of the money. So all these sales are coming in from Asia, none of which were on my team and in my organization, by the way. Don't worry, I'm getting to the fly card. I know you guys are getting ahead. You guys got to stop getting ahead. So all of these people, these sales were coming in from Asia. So then who got blamed whenever the company was hemorrhaging money at the end? Oh, there was this $40 million fraud, $30 million fraud in Asia. Not true. False. Completely false. Do you know where the biggest loss was at the end when the company was hemorrhaging money? Was DreamTrips. We were losing somewhere in the neighborhood of $200 a dream trip because Putman and his team were so bad at negotiating that if contracts didn't fill up or sell out, they were literally giving dream trips away. And if they sold out too fast, they were adding more. And so the balance of power was just all over the place. It was just like we were putting up, in the beginning, it was 1 trip a month. That's all we ever guaranteed. And we wound up doing 15. And then the next year we did like 25. And then by the end, we were doing a couple hundred trips a month and we were losing money on every single one of them. So this is what the real story was. The real story was we paid people to go on dream trips. That's how bad we were at negotiating. We literally lost over $40 million in 1 year on dream trips. 40 million. Okay. And that didn't include any of the money that we were wasting on all of the employees and everybody else, all the other places that we were wasting money. So here was one of the things that I realized that was important for the future was I started to realize what was working and what wasn't working. What was working was we had developed a loyalty program that at the beginning it was working and it was reward points. But then the problem is that the reward points, we couldn't afford them because we couldn't negotiate good enough on the dream trip. So then it became a gotcha. But I knew loyalty was important. So I want you to file that away. Loyalty is big, okay? Loyalty is when we went from about 75 million a year for about 3 straight years, up to 150, up to 350, up to 600, up to 900. A lot of that was because of loyalty, because the idea was a travel piggy bank. The idea that if you put your money into your membership, you were going to get that money back. And so loyalty was key. Here's one of the other problems is that people would join, and because all we had was dream trips, literally people would join and they couldn't travel. They couldn't book. It was sold out, or they didn't have a good enough deal, or it wasn't somewhere they wanted to go. So what are you paying your money for, right? So these are two of the big things that I want you to remember, because this was how I got back into the industry a couple years ago. Loyalty, key, big reason why we grew. The other thing is people need to use the membership right away. You can't charge somebody a monthly membership and not have something that they're going to use regularly, okay? Because the problem is like you're not going to keep paying for Netflix if they turn to Netflix off for the month. I mean, if Netflix came on like 2 months from now or 3 months from now, you're not going to keep paying for your Netflix subscription. If you're paying for something on a monthly basis, there needs to be monthly value. There needs to be a reason why you have it, or something to look forward to, or a reason to keep paying for it. So these are things that I realized. And so this is part of why I'm grateful for WorldVentures, because of what it taught me. I mean, you have to take some L's. You have to have some experiences. But if you keep, making the same mistakes, the L's don't matter because you didn't learn anything, okay? And so we were consuming the dream trips. But these are some of the problems. And this is going to lead into what I'm going to talk about in just a minute with the industry, is we added additional packages. We started coming up with different packages. And then we also made changes to the comp plan. So in the beginning, it was dream trips, but then it was silver and gold, and then platinum, and then titanium. And so this is the reason why things started to go wrong, because in the beginning, it was basic. Right? I used to show the compensation plan in my presentation back in 2006, but the end of 2006, I stopped showing it because we started coming up with volume, and then there was lineage requirements, and there was all these things, and then we made changes to the comp plan. We changed the amount of travel dollars and when they got it. And so this is important to know because a lot of companies, when you start to see companies change comp plan, that's a problem. Okay. You see companies change prices, change comp plan, make changes. They always say that, there's no reason to, we're just, we're doing this. So, to add more value or do this or do that. But I'm telling you, anytime you see changes, right, it's bad because a confused mind does nothing. Okay. And so it's important to keep things consistent. And if a company does it the right way and they spend their money the right way, they run the operation the right way, they shouldn't have to make changes. Okay. And if you make a lot of changes, it's just going to get worse. And so we started making changes, came out with all these different memberships, started changing the compensation plan. And we came out with wings and wheels and volume. So you had a binary with a volume, with lineage. You had to have directs. Then you could pass your indirect to your direct. And, the gotchas started coming with the reward points. You couldn't use them. And the DreamTrips weren't scalable. We grew in Asia. And then the other thing is the real story about Asia was the company took the money as long as it was coming in. And then at the end, there were literally reps that got arrested in Asian countries where we were actually barred or not able to do business in. And the company just was like, sorry about you. And then those teams started quitting and canceling and refunding. And that's where some of the losses in Asia came from. But it was all because of greed. It was all because of money. Because everybody looked the blind eye because we weren't supposed to be operating in China, but yet some of the sales were coming from China. And so, well, let's just keep taking it while it's coming in. But then when those people got arrested, the company was like, I didn't know anything about it. We didn't know that they were over there. We told them not to do it. It's not our fault. And then, of course, those people start refunding and canceling. And then, that's part of the other problem. And like I said, I was calling red alert to this stuff literally from 2015, 16, 17 until I basically resigned from the PAC team. I was talking about how we could fix this. I brought people to the company. I brought people that can negotiate. I brought vendors and suppliers that were willing to pay for our gifts on our DreamTrips, which would have saved us millions of dollars a year that we eventually wound up seeing that we were losing. And so, then there was the chase of technology and trying to build our own search engine and trying to do the fly card and, trying to do all these things and buying stock in the company that was making the fly card. Would you guys, if y'all are just going to talk, okay, and promote people, I'm going to start kicking people out, okay? Just listen, okay? Just listen, all right? I would appreciate if you guys wouldn't do your own commercials, your own recruiting. I'm trying to do this to help people out and give people the real stories and talk about the problems in the industry. But I can't do it if you guys are giving people shout outs. So y'all want to do that, go do it on your own page. So the company stopped paying the leaders first. Okay. So 2017, 2018. I want to see the comments though, because I'm going to give people a chance to do some questions. So they stopped paying people and the company stopped paying the leaders first. And they asked the leaders not to tell their teams and the checks continued for everybody else. But then eventually, as the company started losing more money and couldn't cut costs fast enough and couldn't make changes fast enough, then eventually the check cutting just kept going and going. And this is what I'm talking about. There were people that were literally that had massive amounts of debt from the company, but they never told their teams. They never told their people. They never told their teams. They towed the line. They kept working. There were some people that literally worked for almost 2 years without getting paid. And once again, I want to remind you that I can sit here and say I was the only person that resigned from the PAC team. Okay, so I'm not calling any names, all right, but I'm just telling you that it was not worth a check for me to sit in front of people that I cared about and knew and led and trained and taught and traveled the world with, and then lie to their face and tell them that everything's going to be okay and that they're going to get paid and that I'm getting paid, because I guarantee you they were asking. And so people started jumping ship. Eventually, people started jumping ship. So some leaders went to other companies. Some people started slinging mud. I never did that. Even though I filed a lawsuit against the company, I never, ever exposed any of this. I never talked to people about it. I never told anybody about it. I didn't go to another team. I didn't go try to take my team because it wasn't about the money. I was trying to let whatever happened, happened. I didn't want to hurt people. I didn't want to hurt checks. I didn't want to hurt families. If people thought that it was going to make it, I wanted to let them make that decision on their own. But then eventually, as the company ran out of money and kept trying to raise money and couldn't raise money, they made the decision to do a deal with Seacret. And the deal was that they took all of the debts that were owed to the reps, which primarily was the leaders, and Seacret was going to pay them out of revenue that came from the WorldVentures moving of teams to Seacret. Okay. So they went there on a promise of getting the debts paid that WorldVentures owed them from their WorldVentures business, because so many had worked for several months without getting paid, some more than a year, almost 2 years. And so they moved the entire downlines. They kept them all intact. They took them there, and they literally took a ledger, and it was like, this was the money that WorldVentures owes you. And as long as you come and start buying Seacret products and promoting Seacret, the revenue that we make from that, all the profit, we're going to pay you the money that WorldVentures owes you. Now, here's the other crazy thing, and I hope somebody that has government connections or relationships, I still do not understand to this day how we could, as a company, I was gone. They had stopped paying me, over 2 years before this happened. But I don't understand how a company took their entire, business genealogy, sold it essentially to another company, and then filed for bankruptcy. I'll never understand that. I'm not a lawyer, but all I know is that is exactly what happened. Okay. So they took the money, they took the debt, right? And they moved everybody to Seacret. Now, here's the irony, right? Some people have moved 3, 4, 5 times since then, okay? People had moved before, then they moved again, and then they've moved again. But here's the thing. The entire time we did trainings, over the 12 years that I was there, we made fun of product-based companies, right? I mean, nobody was ever going to do lotions, potions, and pills. Never. And the thing is that if you look at what's happened since WorldVentures, we were really good at selling travel, right? Lifestyle. That's what we did. That's all we knew. That's all we trained. We didn't have to teach sales skills in our trainings. It was all personal development. And the reason is because travel sells itself. And so we always laughed and talked about how none of us would ever do lotions, potions, or pills. And I'm proud to say to this day, I've never done that. And I couldn't, because I got the call, even though I was in the lawsuit with the company and I resigned from PAC. They tried to get me to come. And I laughed because I could not, for any amount of money, go and sell that and do that and promote that, because that's not what I was about. I didn't get into the network marketing industry to make money. I got into the network marketing industry to travel, because I wanted to travel. So I did travel only. I was always only travel. Okay. And so that was important. And so a lot of people left WorldVentures and have tried to do travel again. And here's another fact for you. Okay. A lot of people have done travel since WorldVentures, including Seacret and other companies. And nobody has had the success that I had over the last 2 years with the travel program that I created. No one has. Okay. And I'll be glad to sit down with anybody and compare the numbers and show you exactly what I did. And we'll get to that in just a minute. But a lot of people have tried, because there were other people that were outside of WorldVentures that saw what we were doing, and everybody thought it was easy. See, everybody thought that it was easy to do travel. So there were companies that were coming out of the woodwork to do travel, even when WorldVentures was still in business and going strong. I mean, the guys from Visalis started Live, and there, and then, before WorldVentures filed for bankruptcy, there was iBoomerang, and there were others too. There was lots of them. There was, Traveris and a bunch of different companies, okay, that tried to do travel. And there was Travapoli, and I mean, there was all these companies because everybody thought it was easy. Here's the thing. WorldVentures, the way it was a miracle. Okay, I've seen it all now. Now I know. But the fact that we did what we did was a miracle, because there's too many pitfalls and the program was too broken. It wasn't scalable, all these things, and there was no cost controls. There was nobody steering the ship, watching the money and hiring properly, all these things that I've already talked about. And so there were people that saw what we were doing though, and they thought it was easy because we were just crushing it. When we went from 75 million, 75 million, 75 million to 150, 300, 600, 900, and everybody's like, well, damn, let's just go start a travel MLM. This is easy. Everybody thinks that it's easy. Yeah, I'm seeing the other names. Yeah, trust me. I mean, Planet, IntelliTravel. I mean, it's so crazy because people thought it was easy. It was not easy. It was never easy. It was a miracle that we made it as far as we did. And so the same thing has happened now in the trading space, because there was one company that was doing really well in the trading education space, and it blew up during 2020. So now there's all these companies that do trading education, right? Forex and crypto, just like whenever the crypto stuff started, right? Crypto's hot, it's a buzzword, you know, and so everybody starts a crypto company, right? So it's like everybody wants to chase the fad, chase the trend. And so when they see companies doing well, everybody thinks it's easy to go start an MLM. Well, look at the people that have left WorldVentures and tried to do travel. No one has had any success. No one. And except for me over the last 2 years. And I'm going to get to that in just a minute. But what I'm saying is that literally, and I had to take a break. I needed a mental break. I stepped away, focused on my real estate business, and took a almost 4-year break from the network marketing industry. But the thing is that nobody else has been able to recreate any of the magic because they didn't have the 30,000 foot view that I had. And so, you know, now that we've talked about that a little bit, you know, I also want to mention that, you know, a company bought the DreamTrips name out of bankruptcy. That's crazy to me. I mean, it's like, you know, buying the Titanic. It's like, hey, we bought the Titanic and we want you to go on a cruise on the Titanic. And so somebody bought the DreamTrips name out of bankruptcy. I never got paid. I was listed as one of the debtors. I don't think anybody else ever did. I guess the Seacret people, some of them got paid, but I never got any of the money that I sued WorldVentures for that they didn't pay me. But they paid somebody for the DreamTrips name, and now they brought DreamTrips back. And they're using the same thing that Jeunesse did, which is buying leaders, paying leaders, giving leaders money to come and promote the deal. But there's no way I'm going to go get back on the Titanic. I mean, are you kidding me? It's like we bought the Titanic, we raised it from the ocean, and now we're going to sail the Titanic again. Okay. And so and the other thing is that there's new travel companies still popping up. Okay. I mean, the fact that, you know, Mike Putman now is starting another travel MLM after he said in a meeting to my face he doesn't believe in MLM. It's a scam, it's a joke, and that our model was broken is so crazy. But there's companies popping up all the time. People they see travel and it's sexy, and it is. It's the easiest thing I've ever sold. It sells itself. It's for sure easy. I'm going to talk about some of this stuff in just a minute. But the problem is you can't just add travel on. You can't just add it as an additional product or as an additional service and have it be successful. You need to have a focus, and that's going to get to what I'm talking about in just a minute. The other thing is that nobody has any of their own technology, right? Nobody who's starting a travel MLM has any of their own technology because it's too expensive. We spent millions of dollars at WorldVentures trying to create our own search engine and booking engine, and we couldn't do it. It was broken, never worked. And it couldn't even beat what was online for everybody else. And so, you know, these companies that you see now that have a travel program, and I'm not going to, once again, I'm not going to name names of companies that are currently doing stuff, but you'll know who I'm talking about. But the thing is that when you just add a travel website, it's just a white label. Okay. So do your research, do your homework. What is it that you're representing? Where's the source? Okay. Because there's a few different companies that provide this technology, and I've used one that I think is the best. But the thing is that most companies just use a bolt-on and they use it to add it as like a flavor of the month for whatever their company is, or it's an, oh, hey, by the way, we have travel too. It's like, yeah, we're doing trading and travel and this and that. And so they just add it to whatever else it is that they're doing. And so whenever you look at these white labels, there's several companies that provide this technology. Some are really good and some are not that great. But the thing is what are you getting? What's the value you're providing, and how is it packaged, and what technology is owned? What's the real value? At the end of the day, is it worth what you're paying? Thank you guys. I appreciate it. I appreciate all the comments. but just relax, chill. You guys, people are asking lots of questions. We've got over 500, 600 people on here and have been. And so I'm gonna get to it here in just a minute. But also understand that a lot of those rates, the companies that have those sites are making money on that travel too. So you're getting a discount maybe off of some site, maybe you're saving 5% or 10% or 15% or whatever, but the company's also making money. And so there's different ways to integrate that technology. But the thing is that all these MLMs are cheap. Nobody wants to build technology. Nobody wants to invest in technology. Nobody wants to, create anything of real value, because it's way too easy to just have an SAS company, software as services, and just have a white label website. They'll slap their logo up. It could be up next week. Okay. You can't build something unique, original, that has massive amounts of value in a few weeks. Okay. There's a company that's launching next week. They're doing a big call tomorrow, and they're going to have a travel website, and it's just one of these white label sites that you can throw up in literally a couple of days, and there won't be anything unique or proprietary to it whatsoever. Okay. And you'll hear about it. They're going to be promoting it. They're going to be talking about it. But just, you need to understand what you're promoting. Where is it coming from? What's the value? Who's running it? There's nobody on this planet that has the amount of experience that I have in travel and network marketing. There's nobody in the world. Okay. I've been doing travel since 1997, 1996. Okay. And so that's important to understand, because there's nobody on the planet that knows as much about how these two work together than me. And so, here's industry problems. I want to get into this and we'll wrap things up. Okay. I talked about one of them, and that's BDA deals, ghost legs, volume buying, business buying, moving teams, moving groups. It's great for the leaders. They get a check, they get volume, but the problem is it's not duplicatable. If the comp plan does not work for the average person, then they'll never get duplication. And then you'll have what happened to Janess, right? And it's so sad to me that all these companies pay leaders and buy leaders. We never did that at WorldVentures. We never bought leaders. We never paid a leader. I never even recruited a leader. Everybody that I built, and at one point I had like 7 of the top 10 income earners on my team at WorldVentures in the beginning. We didn't go after MLM people, because that we had something that everybody wanted. We built something that had culture, that attracted people that had never done this before, that had never had, MLM experience. And so if you're part of a company, or you see a company that's buying leaders, paying leaders, giving ghost legs, giving ghost volume, doing any of that kind of stuff, it's never going to last, because people will not be loyal to it. They will literally just be loyal to the money. They'll be loyal to the check. So whoever is going to come next and pay them to come somewhere else, or move their team, or go somewhere else, they're going to take the check. Here's the other problem: comp plans. I mean, this, to me, this might be my biggest soapbox. I'm not going to take long, but it is so wild to me that people brag about the multiple ways of getting paid. 8 different ways. I see this new presentation of this company that's launching, I guess in a week, but tomorrow they're going to do, and they have 8 ways to get paid. Do you know what that is? That's 8 ways to confuse people. Okay. Now I see comp plans that are like 14 ways to get paid, 32 ways to get paid, 56 ways to get paid. The best comp plans are the simple, easy to follow, easy to understand, so that a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old can understand it. And we had that in WorldVentures in the very beginning when we launched in 2005. But then within months, we made changes, and then we made product changes. And so there was volume, and some things had this volume, and some things counted half a credit. Some things counted a full credit. Some things counted 2 credits, and some things counted 3 credits. And so literally by 2006, I stopped showing the compensation plan. So when people ask me how they got paid at WorldVentures, you know what I did? I didn't show it in the presentation. I said, you see that chair over there? You just get somebody to come look at our vacations, and the more people you put in that chair, the more money you make. And I'm going to help and make sure that you make as much money as possible. But the problem in today's network marketing is, because of computers and because of technology, why it was called multi-level was because in the beginning, 70, 80 years ago, when companies started with multi-tiered commission, it was called multi-level because they had to track it manually by hand. There was literally people calculating the compensation, and so they could only go to a certain level. That's where the term multi-level came from. There's multi-levels of commission. And so you could get paid only to a certain level because they couldn't calculate it any further, because back then there was no computers that could do it. Now there's software. And so it's like, it's a forced this and unilevel that and a volume and a bonus pool and a leadership pool and a global bonus pool. And if you could, tie your legs together and put one arm behind your back and you can do a cartwheel and you can jump off a diving board and land it on your feet, you're going to get paid. You're getting to the top of the comp plan. That's bonkers. It's so crazy. It's so wild. And so one of the good things that I've learned over the last few years was a company that used the income at a set rank in order to allow people to see how much money people were making without having to use what's called an IBS, an IDS, an IABS, which is an income disclosure statement. Because if you use what started in the affiliate world and put a pay, as long as everybody at that rank is getting that same amount of pay and there's no variables, then you could use that in the title and then people know how much they're making. So this is one of the good things that I picked up over the last few years working with a different company, was seeing a compensation plan that when I got there was super simple and very easy, and the rank and the income was all in the name. And so it was really easy. And so the problem is with all these other compensation plans, to be a double, triple, ruby, sapphire, emerald, king, queen, jack, ace, spades, diamond, emerald, double, triple director, sapphire, whatever. I mean, you have to have a PhD in compensation plan in order to be able to understand the compensation. What is wrong with companies today? One way to get paid. That's it. One way, simple, easy, 5, 6-year-old, 7-year-old can explain it. And your thing is going to go to the moon because it's easy and simple, and the comp plan should dictate the behavior. Here's the other problem. Why is it today that these companies want to be in the highest regulated and scrutinized industries in the world? And this is one of the mistakes that I made, because I joined a company that, in 2000, at the end of 2020, that is not only regulated by the FTC, because when you look at direct sales companies, anything with a business opportunity, you're going to be looked at by the FTC if you ever grow. But then not only that, you want to be in an industry where the SEC also looks at you. So now you've got the SEC and the FTC, and now there's this company that I told them a year ago was not going to work, would not happen, because they wanted to get involved with banking and transactions. And so that's the FDIC. You want the Fed? You want to mess with banks? I mean, look at what they've done to the people in crypto and blaming them for securities. Do you know how many people have gotten arrested or in prison or jail, or have been fined or levied or had assets seized because of crypto? So you're talking about crypto, banking, trading. These things are crazy regulated. So why, when we're already in an industry that's looked at by the FTC, would you want to go and get into an industry or do something that if you ever have any success? And here's the good news. Most of the companies out there, the ones that I'm talking about, they're never going to be big enough for any of these companies to even care. Because the problem is that most of these organizations, they're self-funded, like the FTC. So they make money from fines. So they don't care if you can't make money for them and it's not worth their time. They're not going to come investigate you. You could literally call their office every day, and if a company's only got 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 people, 30,000 people, they're only doing, less than 20, 30, 40 million a year in revenue, they don't care, because it costs them millions of dollars to do an investigation. So why would you want to be involved with a company that has to deal with the FDIC, the FTC, or the SEC, or any of these organizations that literally make a living fining people, putting them in jail, putting them out of business? I mean, it's crazy to me. And so here's the other thing, retention, right? The average retention in the network marketing industry, the annual retention, is in low single digits. Low single digits. That means that if you're the average company, I don't care what you sell, that you put in 100 customers, 12 months later, there's 4, 5, 6 of them left, maybe 7 if you're really lucky. 4, 5, 6, 7 people out of 100, 12 months later. Facts. Go check it out. If your company right now is doing any of those other things, the banking or the trading or any of those other things, it's probably less than that. Okay. Also, education. This is one of the other things that I learned, is that the worst retention I had ever seen was something on an education product. Because the problem is that if you put somebody on an education product on a monthly membership fee, if they learn it, They don't need the product. And if they suck at it or fail at it, they don't need the product, right? So it's like the biggest blessing is the biggest curse. It's the same thing that happened to Visalis when they came out with their 90-day challenge. So Visalis blew up. They went from like less than 100 million or around 100 million to literally 500, 600 million within like 12 to 24 months. People are like, what in the world? You grew 400%, 500%, 600%. What happened? They came out with the 90-day challenge. Well, guess what? Guess what the average life expectancy of a customer was at Visalis during that time period when they blew up and they got bought by a publicly traded company. You can go research all this all you want, by the way. Like I said from the beginning, there's no secrets here. This is all coming from my knowledge. And so literally the average life expectancy was around 60 days because most people didn't make it to 90. So if they didn't make it to 90, they quit. And guess what happened when people made it to 90? They quit, right? So what are they going to do? Yeah, they got all their friends do the 90-day challenge. What are they going to do? 90 days again? I just did 90. I'm going to do another 90. So they blew up, exploded, had all this growth. And then it was like they couldn't keep people for more than 60 days. Biggest blessing is their biggest curse, right? You know, it's the same thing with these education companies. So the problem is that if somebody gets really good, they don't need the education. And if somebody sucks, guess what? They're not going to pay for the education. And so this is a problem with retention in the industry. And so companies haven't figured this out, except for I was able to figure it out with what I learned at WorldVentures, because the travel program that I created and launched in June of 2022 in the first 12 months did almost 16% annual retention, which was about 400% better than all the other products I was looking at and all of the competition, okay? Because of loyalty, because of what I learned. And this is where the L's come back to make you money and help you because you're learning it. Here's one of my other problems with the industry, jumpers, right? And like I said, so I've done 2 companies in the last 20 years, 2 companies in 20 years, all right? And for me, that's a big deal. That's a big accomplishment. And I'm proud of that because of the fact that I've been loyal to what I've done and I've been loyal to the vision and doing what I said I was going to do, backing my name. I'm not one of these people that goes to a different deal anytime I don't get my way. I'm not chasing money. Trust me, I got fat checks offered to me. I got checks offered to me back in 2005 when I left GT Trends, when I was brand new in the industry. I got fat checks offered to me when my lawsuit went public with WorldVentures in 2017 and 18. Fat checks, blank checks, blank. I had a couple of blank checks. We'll pay you, you fill in the number. You fill in the number, and or we'll fund you to go do your own travel company. Thank God I didn't. I needed a break. I needed a mental break from the industry. I needed to get some space, and I needed to look and think about. I journaled a lot and wrote about these things. I had a lot of ideas that I brought to WorldVentures that could have saved WorldVentures, and people that are on the PAC team know. I stood up to the company. I tried to save the company. I had several times where if they'd have listened to me, we could have saved the company. And I had ideas that could have saved the company, that would have saved DreamTrips, would have kept them profitable, would have brought more revenue to the company. And so I have a problem with jumpers. I have a problem with people that, like, every time you're getting a call from them, they're calling you about something else. They're calling you about, the new deal, the new scam. They're calling you about, Trader's Edge or Trader's Domain. They're calling you about a crypto thing. They're calling you about a bot. First of all, here's the thing. Bots are illegal, right? Synchronized trading is illegal. Having people trade for you that are not licensed and registered is illegal. There's so much illegal stuff. And so you can put that right with jumpers. Is all of the illegal scammo stuff is the problem, right? Is the fact that it's what's giving the industry a bad reputation, what's giving them a bad name. If it's too good to be true or sounds too good to be true, it is. Just remember that. If somebody's telling you they're going to give you 20% interest every single month, or that they never lose, they only win, their trades always win, all this BS, it's all BS. It's all BS. And so I have a problem with that. I have a problem with people pitching my friends and family and former teammates and people believing it, right? Because people want to believe, but the problem is it's all BS. It's all BS. Then I also have a problem with startups. And here's the thing with startups, okay, is that for me, I wouldn't have done a startup. And I was offered to start my own. And the reason that I didn't back in 2018, and thank God I didn't, because COVID would have definitely been a challenge for travel. was because I needed to look back and I needed to have, perspective on what would work and what wouldn't in the travel space, what could be a standalone product, what would work. And that's all I wanted to do. I wouldn't have started another company. So that was it. So here's the problem. As a startup, you have major problems. Growth is a problem. Merchant accounts are a problem. Banking is a problem. Accepting payments is a problem. There's companies that are saying, oh yeah, we're open all over the world. Yeah, but they can't take payments. They've lost merchant accounts. They don't have bank accounts. They have to use these crazy, weird, like PayPal wannabe companies because none of these people have good credit. They've all failed at other deals. They have miserable business experience. They've done 5 or 6 different MLMs in the last 10 years. And so nobody's going to give them a bank account. Nobody's going to give them a merchant account. So that's why you're having to pay on like Crystal Light card or whatever it is, because they can't take money. They don't have bank accounts. They don't have merchant accounts. They don't have software. They don't have technology. They don't have a good back office, or they don't have a back office that works. One of the reasons why back office software is expensive. Right? So back office software is expensive. Technology is expensive. That's why all these companies that have travel, none of them own anything. None of them have their own stuff. None of them have their own app. None of them have built anything because they're all cheap and they don't have any money, and they're not going to build anything, And so these are the things that bother me about the industry, because it's a new travel company, but all it is the same website, same technology, different label, different branding, and it's the same stuff and no value, nothing unique. And the other thing is that there's also a lot of issues as a startup with logistics, getting into countries, getting out of countries, taxation, legal support. I mean, so any company that grows fast or that's like bootstrapped, it's going to expose the cracks. Remember, fast growth exposes cracks. If you're a part of a company or you've been a part of a company that grows really slow and hasn't really done anything, that's probably a good thing, because it hasn't exposed any of the problems. Because when you grow fast, that's when you get exposed. So I sat out of the industry for 3 years, almost 4 years. And at the end of 2020, I joined a company under the pretense, after talking to a lot of companies, that I would create a new travel platform when the time was right. So I had a lot of offers, I had a lot of proposals. I talked about some of my ideas under NDA with a lot of different people, a lot of hot, owners of companies. And I found what I felt like was the best fit with people that I liked. And the idea was I would build a team. Again, I started from scratch. I didn't go after any of my WorldVentures team, didn't sign any of them up, started completely from scratch, and still built one of the highest ranks in the company within 90 days, okay? Without travel, building with just what they had. And the idea is that I would start travel when travel was right. So I started working on travel behind the scenes. And in June of 22, I launched my travel program with that company. And in 18 months that I ran that program, I've sold over 100,000 memberships. 100,000. There is no one who has done travel since WorldVentures that has signed up that many people, that has put in that many people. No one on the planet. Okay. And I did it in 18 months with a bootstrap website that I paid for, that I developed, that I created. And we retained, like I said, about 15–16% of people over the first 12 months and did over 20 million in revenue. But the problem was, on top of that, I was fighting culture because it was not a travel company. And this is where I learned and realized that you need to be good at one thing. You cannot be the master of many, right? You can't be a good skincare company and a good travel company. I don't even understand how those products even go together for someone that's never done business before, right? Okay, there is nobody who can put those two together and make them make sense. It didn't make sense to me, and I'd come from travel, right? And so there's some things that fit and there's some things that don't. But here's what I'll tell you is that you can't be the master of many. You need to be good at one specific thing. And so this is one of the things that I learned. Look, I know I'm hurting some feelings. If I'm hurting your feelings, I'm sorry. Okay. I'm sorry that it hurts your feelings. Okay. But this is facts, right? There is no example that you can give me of a company that is a good skincare company and a good travel company. It doesn't exist in the world on the planet. So if you're on here right now and I'm hurting your feelings, then that's on you, because you can't show me where it works, because it doesn't fit. It doesn't work. Okay. Maybe sunscreen. Okay. Maybe sunscreen. Okay. But not travel and skincare. Just like it doesn't work with combining a lot of other things. Like Prove It is not going to go and do keto and do, makeup. right? They're not going to do keto makeup. It doesn't work. It doesn't fit. And so you need to do something the best. You need to be dialed in. You need to be focused. You need to do one thing great. Okay. And that is why I made the decision to leave and pursue something new, because I knew that it was not the focus. Travel was not the focus, even though it had a 400% better retention than all the other products. It had the best retention. It had the best profit margins. It was running good. But the problem was I was fighting culture, and I was fighting the fact that I had a bigger vision for what it was. And so it was important for me to go do it and make it the main focus and make it the main thing, and team up with technology and people that could build what I was trying to create. My vision for travel was bigger than what this company had, and it's no hard feelings, okay? I learned a lot from this company, and I still have friends at that company, and I have not tried to recruit anybody from that company, okay? And so, you know, the facts remain the same, is that I learned a lot. But I also realized that my vision for my travel program and my travel product that did over 20 million in revenue in my first 18 months, which was better than WorldVentures did in its first 2.5 years, was something that needed to be on its own platform. It needed to be by itself. And so that's what I decided to do. And I'm the only person that can do this. My job was to solve the problems that I saw in the industry with travel and lifestyle and entertainment over the last 25 plus years of doing this. I've been selling travel since 1996. Okay. And so literally it's important that you understand that I made the decision to leave, not because I have any ill will towards that company, but I just had a bigger vision for what I was building, what I was creating, and I wanted to make it happen. I wanted to see it come to fruition. And so tonight, I want to remind you of a few things before we end. There are a lot of people that have tried this. There's a lot of people that are going to continue to try. One just launched last month. One's launching tomorrow. Another one's launching next week. Nobody has anything like what I'm building and creating. Nobody has anything that solves the problems that I've talked about tonight. Nobody's been able to do it. Nobody's been able to solve the problems that I talked about tonight with retention, with loyalty, with having a product that's available as soon as somebody joins so that they don't have to wait, so that there's no trips that are sold out, so that it's not a place that they have to want to go to. And so I have done this without going after my old team. I did it already once. I put in over 100,000 people into this, and it's going to happen again, but it's going to be the biggest thing that I've ever done. People are already copying the last program that I launched in 2022. As soon as I came up with the anniversary trip concept, which was my loyalty concept, literally within 90 days, everybody was already copying. Right? Seacret copied me, By Design copied me. Everybody was coming up with this trip that they were giving everybody for being a member. My Daily Choice, all these other companies. As soon as I come up with something, they all try to do it. But the thing is it often duplicated, but never actually replicated. They all have hidden fees. They all have gotchas. It's not a 5-star hotel like what I was doing. Everybody tries to do it. And the thing is people saw what I was doing and they saw the success. And they're like, well, Wes has figured it out. Let's go do it. Nobody's been able to do it. Still, I started in June of 22 publicly. I started building it before that. Nobody has done it since me. And I don't think anybody will ever be able to. But in a week, you're going to hear about what I've been building behind the scenes. Okay. And if you want to know about it, then message me. If you don't, I don't care. No hurt feelings. Okay. But I'm going to build what I told you I was going to do at WorldVentures 25 years ago. And I'm going to do it right and with ethics and morals and values, without buying leaders, without paying for volume, without having some gimmicky program, without having something illegal, without having to worry about, you know, the FDIC, or without having to worry about the SEC, or without having to worry about any of those things. It's going to be foolproof because of what I've done for almost 30 years. And so if you want to know more about it, send me a message. Okay. If you don't, I'm glad you listened and stayed on. There's still like 400 or 500 people that have been on, and I've been 15 longer than I wanted to. I wanted to go only an hour, but people told me throughout my entire career, I wished I would have joined you at the beginning of WorldVentures, because in the beginning, 7 of the top 10 income earners were directly recruited by me. And I help people make millions of dollars. And there will be people that will say that 5 years from now about this. Okay. But the thing is this is going to be way bigger than WorldVentures. And I'm not going to run it into the ground at 100 miles an hour. And I'm not going to hemorrhage money. All of the finances are figured out. I have the right partners. I'm building the right technology. I'm putting everything together in the right way. And so I don't have to lie. There's no smoke and mirrors. I don't have to make stuff up. I don't have to talk about something like it's going to happen. And even though it's never going to happen, still try to sell you from stage like it's going to. These are the things that I've watched people do. All these problems that I have with the industry, not going to be an issue here. Okay. There's nobody going to be inserted above anybody. There's nobody going to be given any ghost legs, ghost volume. If you see a leader join me, work with me, you know that they earned it. They worked it. They got to that rank. But the comp plan is so sexy and so simple that you can explain it to your 5-year-old and they could hit the top rank in the company. No 8 ways to get paid, no 52 ways to get paid, no 42 levels. We've got something that's going to attract people that have never done network marketing before, that have never done MLM before. We're going to be able to get travel influencers. We're going to be able to get lifestyle influencers. We're going to get people off of a technology that will allow people to share travel content. And we're going to send people on their bucket list all over the world. That's our goal. Our goal is to help people cross off their bucket list. And you'll be hearing more about that soon. So thank you very much. It's late. I appreciate you. I really do. I've seen a ton of familiar faces on here tonight, names I haven't seen or talked to. Trust me, I'm going to try to get around to everybody. Please send me a message if you want to connect. If you have questions, I was going to try to open it for questions, but you guys were going back and forth all night. So it was really entertaining for me to watch. So I am going to post this. I did record it. So I am going to put it up on my page. Like I said, I mean, I wanted to make sure that this was from the heart tonight and real because I can't take it anymore. I keep seeing everybody jump from company to company and keep trying over and over and over again. And you go into this deal and that deal and calling you about this deal or that deal. And it's this week I'm doing this and next week I'm doing that. You're never going to get that from me. I'm not that guy. 2 companies in 20 years and, travel since 1996. And so I'll put myself and my knowledge up against anybody in that space, and you're going to see something in travel and lifestyle and entertainment, and we're going to help people go on their bucket list. We're going to have our own technology. We're going to have some really cool things that nobody else has done before. They're going to try to copy it. People are going to try to do what I'm doing. They're already doing it. When people imitate you or copy you, tell them thank you. The company I was with for almost 4 years, a lot of people copying them. But man, it is a tough business. It is a tough business education and doing that. So thanks so much for tuning in tonight. I appreciate you guys. Have a great night. God bless.